Hi everyone, it's Tasha. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Ever since we had our home exterior and shed freshly painted last fall, it's really inspired me to start adding more little touches outside, whereas before, when they were a very sun-faded indigo color, I honestly felt so uninspired that I haven't done much since we moved in. And since we can see this shed right from our kitchen window, I wanted it to feel a little more charming and intentional, almost like a pretty little garden moment instead of just a shed. So I added this black iron style window planter with a cocoa liner to bring in a little bit of that European cottage feel. And this is actually a thrifted find. I found the window box at a thrift store for just $4, which makes me love it even more. I filled it with African daisies and sweet potato vine, which should both do really well here in the full sun in central North Carolina. And honestly, this is such an easy idea to steal. If you have any outbuildings, especially ones with a window, treating it a little bit like its own little house and adding a detail like this can give it instant charm. It's such a small change, but it makes the whole view feel so much more special. Now, one of the things that I want to do outside, among my many other ideas for expanding our flower beds and developing a more cottagey style feel in our outside in general, is to add a little flower bed right underneath this window box right in front of this shed, just a very small one, but maybe surrounded by some large rocks to border it. So I'll be working on that project soon too. Now, as you know, one project often leads to another, and that was the case with this little window box. I decided that I also wanted to go ahead and give a shot to making some board and batten style shutters, which I had seen on Pinterest and which caught my eye. So using some inspiration photos, I decided to go ahead and make my own. I needed to first decide how tall I wanted them to be and how wide, and since this was a small window, I decided to just go with about 8 inches for my width. These were very easy, a very quick project that took only one morning. I just went to my local hardware store and got a couple of 1x4s and a 1x3, and off I went. So here we have these. They were very easy. I'm just waiting for the second coat of paint to dry now. I just used two 1x4s for the back and little pieces of 1x3 for the cross pieces, and basically did some finishing nails through these as well as some glue. And then the only other thing I have to do is take them and attach them to the shed once the paint dries. I'm really excited to see what kind of charm it's going to add. I went with the same color as the window trim, which is the trim color for our whole house as well, which is Jogging Path by Sherwin-Williams. I decided I just wanted it to be kind of all one piece visually instead of a third contrasting color. I pre-drilled some holes beforehand so that my screw would just go in easier since I was working on this by myself and kind of holding it with one hand. It was very easy though, and then at the end I just wanted to take a little bit of the paint on my brush and touch up over the screw heads, and these were ready to go. So like I said, I do still want to add a flower bed underneath here, and honestly I might even change out the window box to something more like this one in my inspiration photo. However, I do think that this thrifted window planter plus these DIY shutters made a big difference. I think it has a lot more charm. I do also plan on adding some strap hinges that I ordered online, but they didn't come in time for this video. Over this past week, I focused a lot on my upstairs hallway, and one of the things that I had done recently, right around the time when I did my bathroom makeover, which I will link above, was I painted all of the doors on these rooms in Shiitake by Sherwin-Williams. Now, I had been meaning to do that. I already had one done, but I was just really behind and hadn't done the others as well as the trim, so I did all of that. And now I want to focus especially on giving the walls a little more interest up here. This is something I want to do throughout my whole home, and I'm starting with a small space like this. So my main goal with this hallway area, and you can see it's just this section and then little pieces here and here and here. This is my daughter's bedroom, and then here, if I can capture all of this. So it's really just kind of little sections over on this whole part, and then one kind of bigger section over here where we started. The purpose is to just add a little bit of charm with some wallpaper, and then mainly over here, what I want to do is figure out a way to hide this thermostat. I don't want to pay to move it, and I feel like if I get a different, prettier, expensive one, it's still gonna be, you know, intrusive right there. But if I don't want to pay to move it, I figured two birds, one stone. I would make the walls a little more interesting here and also give myself a way to hide that. So in this section, I'm going to do a little kind of half wall with a ledge, like a picture ledge, and then that'll give me the opportunity to put some art up here and something that could even just slide over and hide that. So that's my plan. I'm going to prep this wall first for wallpaper. Not by necessarily worrying about these tiny little nail holes, but when you pull a nail out, it leaves a little bump. So I'm just gonna sand those away to make it nice and smooth. Before I actually start applying my wallpaper, I do want to go in with a quick layer of wallpaper primer. What this does is creates a uniform surface over your drywall. It's slightly tacky, it reduces the adhesive absorption into your drywall itself, and it protects your walls, making future removal much easier without damaging your drywall. This is a really quick and easy step. It just goes on like a fast layer of paint, and it's definitely worth the time. You just want to wait at least 3 or 4 hours, but ideally more like 10 or 12 before you apply your wallpaper over it. While my wallpaper primer is setting in and before I start putting the wallpaper up, I need to decide exactly how tall I want my accent wall to be. I ended up deciding on about 42 inches, and that'll go on top of the baseboard that I have that is 5 inches high. So that's where I'm going. I'm using my laser level for the first board, and I think that's really important both with paneling like this, and this is shiplap, by the way. I'm just applying it vertically as opposed to what you might have seen years back a lot used on shows like Fixer Upper and other farmhouse styles where it's applied horizontally. I'm doing mine vertically for a little bit more of a classic and timeless look, but I'm using that laser level to make sure that I'm not starting just with the edge of my wall, which might very well be crooked and usually is, but to make sure my first board is actually totally straight, because you don't want to get off kilter for the whole rest of your wall. That is a pretty easy thing to do. I'm just using a nail gun and a little bit of liquid nails on the back of each board as well. And this was a very easy step to do. I just used a regular old circular saw to cut my boards to the right length outside. Even though we don't have any really big or fancy tools, that totally worked for this. I'm not going to apply all of these until I finish the wallpaper. I'm just working on a little bit until it's time for me to go ahead and do the wallpaper. And for the two boards that were going to be around my outlet as well as the light switch, which is right above this, I just drew with a pencil after holding it in place to give myself a rough idea of where I would need to cut in order to accommodate those. Now this is the wallpaper that I chose. It's from the Magnolia Home collection. It's purchased from Wayfair. I absolutely love the classic French ticking stripe here, and I chose it in the color light blue. What I'm doing here is just cutting out strips that are a couple inches longer than the length of my section, because you do want to leave a bit at the top and bottom to trim off when you're wallpapering. Do not try and line up an edge perfectly at the bottom or the top by cutting your piece beforehand. This particular wallpaper is pre-pasted, and now having used all types of wallpaper, I prefer non-pasted and pre-pasted over peel and stick. Just from my experience, they seem to be easier to get up to me, but whatever type you prefer, Wayfair has got it. I love Wayfair's selection always, and if you weren't aware, one thing that they do have a lot of selection on is wallpaper. Wayfair is sponsoring today's video, so a big thank you to them. Now, Way Day is coming up starting April 25th, which is Wayfair's biggest sales event of the year, and I'll let you in on a secret. Wallpaper is one of those things that will be in the highest, like up to 80% off category. So if you're thinking about a project like this one, definitely make sure to shop during the Way Day sale, which is coming up again starting April 25th. You can check out this particular wallpaper now by clicking the shopping button below. So having sprayed this wallpaper all over, I'm now folding each side in on itself and gently pressing it together. This is called booking, and it just starts to activate the adhesive on the back. This brand says to wait 2 to 3 minutes for each piece before you then hang it on the wall. So that was easy enough to do in between each piece. I'm also spraying a little bit of Roman's Easy Peel and Stick Wallpaper Helper on beforehand. It's not just for peel and stick, it helps improve the slide when you're first putting it on. It just gives you a little bit of glide that you can kind of move it around without peeling it back and forth as you're trying to get it in position. So I found that really helpful. I'm just using my kit again from Wayfair with the large like brush that you use to smooth it out and the other smoother tools, and really again just starting at the top but leaving a little bit of overhang at the top that I'm going to trim off later, instead of trying to line up exactly with the top of the ceiling, which is not always straight by any stretch of the imagination. Also, it comes with this nice little utility tool that I can just use to cut out around the thermostat and cut off at the edges in the top and the bottom. One tip that I will give you is to replace the blade on whatever utility knife you're going to use frequently so that it stays nice and sharp and gives you a clean line. Again, I'm using my handy laser level just to make sure with each piece as I go, especially since this is stripes, that it's lining up exactly with the laser level. I did not want to start with my wall and then get off kilter, so I'm just looking at it each piece and making sure it's straight. And this is how you would trim your wallpaper. You use this flat stainless steel tool that holds the paper in place against your ceilings, your baseboards, whatever, while your razor knife will cut along its edge. So you just kind of slide it along with your blade, and that will ensure a straight, clean cut every time. And here's another up close look at this beautiful pattern. Again, I really like the muted blue, and I'm excited for the warmth that this will bring to my wall. So for my light switch as well as my outlet down there, I've just added these outlet box extenders, which are just these plastic pieces. And you remove your faceplate, you bring this part out a little farther, and then put this behind it and then screw in to it again with the longer screws provided. And this just brings the whole thing forward a little for when you're adding paneling like this, because you don't want your switch or your outlet to be like too far recessed into your wall. So this just brings it out, and you would just buy the same thickness as the paneling that you're adding. So after I have my wallpaper up, and you can see that I just went down enough where I would be putting my paneling over it, not bothering to go all the way to the floor, of course. I just continued on with my little pieces of vertical shiplap. That was really easy. I just ended up doing like 1 or 2 little finishing nails in each piece, plus the adhesive, and they are nice and tight. They are perfectly good. And then to finish this off, I just added a 1x3 across the top, and as you can see, I turned that horizontally so that it would create a little teeny ledge. This is going to be basically my picture ledge, and what I'm doing there is just taking some shrink-free spackling and filling in the little gaps that are left behind inevitably. And this is how my wall looks. Now I still want to paint this, but I'm really happy with how it turned out so far. To be able to paint this, I definitely want to protect my floor. I'm just using a little bit of this painter's tape that has the plastic attached to it. It's so convenient to do that and then just pull the plastic out across your floor. And I'm going in first with a little bit of primer, and then I'm going to be eventually using the color Shiitake by Sherwin-Williams, which is the color of my doors and trim that are there around it. Now by painting this half wall the same color as the surrounding doors and trim, it's going to make the hallway feel a little more intentional, architectural, and custom. So instead of reading like a separate feature wall that I DIY'd, it's going to read like it was maybe always part of the home's millwork. And the tone-on-tone approach, I think, feels more elevated and more designer driven, while a contrasting color can sometimes make it feel more decorative or trend-based. Now I replaced both the switch plate as well as the outlet cover with paintable versions that looked a little bit nicer, so that those blend right in with the bottom part of the wall. And now I'm just working on decorating. I had this piece of art that I already had printed off from online, as well as this small one, and I was thinking about kind of putting these side by side, as well as this little vintage vase that I thrifted with some cosmos in it. But I don't think that the large piece of art works very well. It's a little too washed out for this space, and I think that the darker, smaller piece is doing a lot better work. So I'm going to keep looking for something a little darker and show you that in just a moment. But one other thing that I wanted to add here was a picture light, just to really set it off. I found this one online, and this is not a hardwired version. It's just one that you mount on the wall, and you can easily pop it right back off, and you recharge it and put it back. And it also has a remote, so I think that this is the perfect piece, and I really liked how it looked. in the meantime, I have worked on finding some new art, and that is being printed off at my local drugstore. And so I went and picked that up and tried out the new piece, and I think it looks so much better. You guys let me know if you agree. Just the much darker print and the moodier aspect of this one I think works a lot better with the two different colors that I have going on, and I think it's the perfect piece that I was looking for. And so altogether, this is how it turned out. I love the combination of the subtle earthy stripes along with the bottom half wall with the picture ledge and shiitake, and I think it adds a nice, warm, and modern charm touch at the top of our stair landing, which I had been wanting to do for a long time, so I'm glad I finally got around to it. And that wraps up today's video. I hope that you've enjoyed these couple of ideas to charm up the outside of maybe an outbuilding on the outside of your home, or even some sort of stairway or landing in your home with a little bit of wallpaper and a little bit of warmth. So I hope that inspired you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and leave me a comment. As always, I'll see you at the next video.